Going on, everybody? Welcome into week 6 of my college football pick'em. Just a reminder, these games are based on ESPN's college football pick'em. Back in week 5, we went 6-4 on our picks, although actually we went 5-4 because one of the games did not play in time for the week to finish due to Hurricane Ian. Well, let's get into the games here for week 6. Also, I'd like to apologize off the top. I'm feeling a little under the weather, so my voice will sound a little different. First game up on the docket, it's Texas versus Oklahoma. This is a noon kickoff Eastern Time on ABC. It's the Red River Shootout. First time since 1998 that this game features two unranked teams. Let's take a look at Texas first. They are currently 3-2 on the season, and they are sitting in the middle of the pack in the Big 12. Texas expects to return quarterback Quinn Ewers this week. Texas's offense without Ewers has been steady, with Hudson Card in at quarterback. Currently, the Longhorns are averaging 36.8 points per game, and they have averaged 260 yards through the air. Their ground game has also been impressive as well, with Bijan Robinson. On defense for Texas, they are allowing 21.4 points per game and 366.8 yards per game, both of which rank in the top 5 in the Big 12. Looking now on the other side of the field at the Sooners, Oklahoma is coming off 2 straight losses, and they look to avoid to make it 3 straight losses for the first time since 1998. Sooners quarterback Dylan Gabriel is unlikely to play due to a concussion suffered last week. On offense, the Sooners have put up good numbers. They rank second in the Big 12 in yards per game, and the Sooners' struggles have come this season largely on the defensive side of the ball. This defense ranks last in the Big 12 in yards allowed per game and is allowing nearly 200 rushing yards per game. According to ESPN's Football Power Index, Texas has a 68.2% chance to win this game, and I'm going to take Texas. I do not believe that Oklahoma's defense will be able to stop Texas's offense, and I have heard that Quinn Ewers is expected to play. So, with that in mind, I think Texas's offense will be rolling, and they will take care of Oklahoma, although you don't usually see a blowout in this game, so Texas will likely be in a close one. Oklahoma should keep it closer. The spread's about a touchdown, so I don't know if it'll be cover the spread, but this will still be a dogfight for sure. Moving on to the next game, it's number 17 TCU versus number 19 Kansas. This one is a noon Eastern kick on Fox Sports 1. If you would have guessed going into the preseason that Texas and Oklahoma would face off unranked, and Texas Christian and Kansas would have faced as two ranked teams, people would have told you you're out of your mind. But here we are, folks. Let's take a look at the Horned Frogs. They're coming off a big win last week against Oklahoma. Their offense has been electric so far this season. They're currently averaging 48.5 points per game and over 500 yards per game. Their quarterback Max Duggan has been playing extremely well, and he has the 3rd highest QBR in the country. In addition to Duggan, the Horned Frogs have been running the ball very well as they rank 6th in rushing yards per game in the country. On defense, TCU is allowing 22 points per game, and that ranks 5th in the Big 12. Let's take a look at Kansas now. The Jayhawks are 5-0 for the first time in over a decade and have stolen the hearts of many college football fans across the country. The offense for Kansas is averaging 41.6 points per game, and they are led by the play of quarterback Jalen Daniels. Daniels continues to lead the nation in QBR, even though he had a rougher performance last week where they only scored 14 points. But despite that, this team and this offense still has the capability to put up big numbers. On defense, the Jayhawks have been effective at getting pressure. They are currently leading the Big 12 in sacks. Getting effective pressure on Max Duggan will give this Kansas Jayhawks team a chance at a victory here at home. According to ESPN's Football Power Index, TCU has a 68% chance to win this game, and I was really torn at what way to go with this one. I think this will be a high-scoring affair. I'm not sure what the over-under is, but I think there will be a lot of points scored. Both of these offenses are very good. Both of these quarterbacks can score the ball. But I'm going to take TCU, the Horned Frogs, to get the win. I think that they've been playing at a higher level offensively, and I think they might have less liabilities on defense potentially. Transitioning now, we have number 8 Tennessee versus number 25 LSU. This one is a noon Eastern Time game, and it can be seen on ESPN. Tennessee is off to one of their best starts in recent memory. The Vols' success has started with their dynamic offense led by quarterback Hendon Hooker. Hooker currently has a top 5 QBR in the country, and the Vols are averaging 48.5 points per game, which is tied for the 4th best in the nation. They're currently putting up the most passing yards per game. No matter how you slice it, Tennessee's offense is one of the best in the country. On defense for the Volunteers, they are holding opponents to under 20 points per game, and they are holding opponents to under 100 rushing yards per game. Turning now to LSU. LSU had a rocky start to start the season in that Week 1 loss to Florida State, but since then they have bounced back nicely and find themselves back in the polls. They have improved each week, and the offense for the Tigers is currently averaging 35.6 points per game. Currently, the Tigers possess a top 5 in the SEC in rushing yards per game, and on defense, the Tigers are top 5 in points allowed, yards allowed, and sacks. According to ESPN Football Power Index, they like LSU in this one, which might be surprising to some. They give them a 58.3% chance to win this game, and I am going to go with the upset pick here. I am going to take LSU to get the win at home. I think Tennessee did have a bye week before this, if I remember correctly, but I just like LSU. I think this will be a big win. Not a lot of people will see it coming, but I think LSU's defense will provide a formidable test for this Tennessee offense. And I'm not so sure how good Tennessee is. I know they've put up great numbers, but how much have we really seen them tested? I know they played Pitt, but what is Pitt turning into be? Florida, Tennessee was largely in control of that game most of the way, but Florida made it close at the end. We'll see if LSU can overcome that and take down the Volunteers. This will definitely be a great game in the noon slot. Turning now to some West Coast action, it's number 11 Utah versus number 18 UCLA. This one will be seen at 3:30 Eastern Time on Fox. Looking at the Utes first, Utah has bounced back strongly from their Week 1 loss to Florida. They have won their game since by an average margin of 35 points. Utah's offense has been effective. They have put up over 40 points per game and over 200 yards on both the ground and through the air. The twos, which should say the Utes, my mistake, they have also kept teams in check on defense as they lead the Pac-12 in yards allowed per game and points allowed per game. However, this Utah defense will have quite a challenge on its hands when it takes on the UCLA Bruins. They are off to a great start, sitting pretty at 5-0. Dorian Thompson-Robinson at quarterback, he's playing the best football of his career, and he currently has a top 10 QBR in the country. The Bruins offense also ranks top 5 in the Pac-12 in passing and rushing yards per game, so they have shown an ability to move the ball through the air and on the ground as well. The defense for the Bruins has also played well, placing in the top 5 in the Pac-12 in yards allowed per game, points allowed per game, and sacks. Taking a look at the Football Power Index, Utah is favored in this one. They have a 68.9% chance to win this game. Although UCLA is playing great ball, and I really like what Chip Kelly's doing, I think he's really hitting his stride here in LA. I'm going to take Utah here. I think they're more experienced, and I think they're a better team overall. We'll see how well that travels. UCLA is not exactly known for an intense home atmosphere, but there is still home field advantage nonetheless. But this will be a great game, and it's great to see the Pac-12 have a ranked-on-ranked marquee matchup like this in an afternoon slot on Fox. Let's crumple that one up and move on to our next game, some ACC action. I love that we're getting into conference play here. It's North Carolina versus Miami. This one is a 4 p.m. Eastern Time game and can be seen on ESPN2. Let's take a look at UNC. The theme of today, we've had a lot of high explosive offenses in our picks, and here's another one. North Carolina, they have been impressive on the offensive side of the ball. They are averaging 45.4 points per game and over 500 yards per game. They are led by quarterback Drake May, who holds the 4th best QBR in the nation and is tied for the most passing touchdowns. Although the Tar Heels have been electric on offense, their defense has failed to stop a nosebleed. They currently rank last in the ACC, giving up over 30 points per game and allowing an average of 450 yards per game. The Hurricanes have had a sour start to their season. They lost to Texas A&M, and as we all remember, 2 weeks ago, they lost to Middle Tennessee. Coming off a bye week, though, the Hurricanes are looking to rebound here at home. Quarterback Tyler Van Dyke, who received a lot of hype coming into the preseason, he has failed to live up to that hype. He has a QBR of 41.3, which is less than impressive, and he was even benched at one point this season, but they say they're going to stick with him. Despite their struggles offensively, the Canes still rank in the top 5 in yards per game in the ACC. And on defense, Miami is holding opponents to 20.5 points per game, which is a top 5 in the ACC. It would be rather impressive if they held North Carolina to under 20 points, but I just frankly don't see that happening. Taking a look at the Football Power Index, Miami has a 67.2% chance to win this game, and I don't want to say I'm selling all my Miami stock or I think Cristobal is going to be a failure, but I just don't know if they'll have enough to stop Drake May. If this one gets into a shootout, which North Carolina tends to do, I don't know if Tyler Van Dyke and this offense for Miami can keep up, frankly. So I'll take North Carolina to win this one on the road and sort of bounce back. Transitioning now, we have Western Kentucky versus the University of Texas San Antonio, the Road Runners. This one is a 6 p.m. game and it can be seen on ESPN+, which means I will not be watching because I do not pay for that stuff. Taking a look at the Hilltoppers, they have one of the best passing attacks in the country. Some of you might have saw their former quarterback this past Sunday, Bailey Zapp, taking over for the New England Patriots. Well, that wicked passing attack has continued here. They rank 6th in the nation in passing yards per game, and they are also averaging over 40 points per game on offense. Quarterback Austin Reed is top 5 in the nation in both passing yards and passing touchdowns. The defensive side of the ball for the Hilltoppers places top 5 in the Conference USA in points allowed and per game and yards allowed per game, as well as with sacks. Looking over at UTSA, they also have an even better offense, believe it or not. Currently, the Roadrunners have the best passing attack in the nation. They rank 1st in passing yards per game, and quarterback Frank Harris ranks 2nd in the nation in passing yards, and he has shown a great ability to spread the ball through the air. The defense for the Roadrunners has been less impressive than their offense, as they are giving up over 30 points per game on average. This one has shootout written all over it, high scoring, so if you're into that, you might want to fire up the ESPN Plus this weekend. This game will have major implications for the Conference USA Championship, which is wild to see, and we're only in the 2nd week of October. According to ESPN's Football Power Index, Western Kentucky has a slight lean with this one, 54.4% chance to win this, and I'm going to have to agree. I think their defense, I think Western Kentucky has a better defense, and I think that'll make the difference. Whether it's a 1 3-and-out or 1 stop or they stall a drive for UTSA, that could make the difference, but I'm going to take Western Kentucky to get the win on the road. Moving on to our next game, it's more Big 12 action. Number 20, Kansas State versus Iowa State. This one is a 7:30 p.m. game, Eastern Time, moving into the prime time slot here, and this one can be seen on ESPNU. Fortunately, I will not be watching this one either because my cable package doesn't include ESPNU. I would love to get that included somehow, though. Looking at Kansas State first, if you don't notice, we'd like to start with the road team. Kansas State currently sits 2nd in the Big 12 standings. But not a lot of people would have expected that to be the case 2 weeks into October, but here we are. The Wildcats offense has been moving the ball very effectively, especially when it comes to on the ground. In the air, they've been not the best, pretty mundane, but on the ground, the rushing attack has been phenomenal. They're averaging 267 rushing yards per game, and that ranks 4th best in the country. And their quarterback is even getting involved in the running game. Adrian Martinez, transferred from Nebraska. He has rushed for over 100 yards in each of the last 2 weeks. On the defensive side of the ball, Kansas State is allowing an average of 18.2 points per game, which is 2nd best in the Big 12. They are also top 5 in the Big 12 in sacks on the year. Looking now at Iowa State, they had just had 2 tough losses in a row, both decided by 1 possession. The Cyclones offense is putting up 26 points per game, and they are ranked 43rd in the country in passing yards per game. While that offense is a little mundane, their defense is something to write home about. This Cyclones defense, they have played very well, and they are allowing an average of 14.4 points per game, which ranks 1st in the Big 12. This defense is also holding opponents to under 100 rushing yards per game, and that is the matchup. Kansas State's rushing attack, will they be able to run wild over the Cyclones defense, or will this Iowa State defense do what they've done all year and contain the run? We've got 2 of the best defenses in the Big 12 here, so this one should be a sweet treat. Little different from what we normally expect to see from the Big 12 with high scoring. I think this one will be defense, defense, defense. According to ESPN's Football Power Index, they like Iowa State, giving them a 55.3% chance, but I say no. I don't like the Cyclones. I'll take the Wildcats. They're too hot right now. They're moving the ball too well. I can't pick against that. Go Kansas State. Moving on now to our next game, it's Washington State versus number 6 USC. This one is a 7:30 p.m. game Eastern Time, and it can be seen on Fox. Starting now with the Cougars of Washington State, they are off to a strong start this season. On offense, the Cougars are averaging roughly 30 points per game, and although they have been held to under 100 yards per game rushing the ball. This team has also struggled with turnovers, as well as quarterback Cameron Ward has, I believe, 7 interceptions on the season. They will need to get that cleaned up, as USC is a team that has shown an ability to force turnovers and make big plays defensively. But we'll get to the Trojans in just a second. On the defensive side of the ball for the Cougars, they are holding opponents to 18.2 points per game, and they have 18 sacks on the year, both of which rank second best in the Pac-12. USC has been rolling so far now to start this season. The offense for the Trojans is averaging 40 points per game. Quarterback Caleb Williams has been playing at a very high level and currently has a top 10 QBR and is considered by some to be a Heisman dark horse. The defense for USC has been playing well also. Currently, the Trojans rank in the top 5 in the Pac-12 in points allowed per game, yards allowed per game, and sacks. This is a very talented team that has continued to play well this season. Some people say they're overrated, but I think they're playing well and I think they're dangerous. Now, I was listening to Joel Klatt's podcast this morning, and I hope that USC has to be careful. I won't say I hope, because I don't care if USC wins or loses, but I would be careful if I was USC not to look ahead. Next week, they have Utah. That's a huge game in the Pac-12. But this Washington State team is a very formidable foe. We saw them go into Camp Randall and beat Wisconsin. Now, I know Wisconsin just fired their coach, but no matter what Wisconsin's status is, going into Camp Randall and winning is still a tough thing to do. So this Washington State team is capable of winning, so do not sleep on them, Trojans fans. The FPI, however, ESPN's Football Power Index, is sleeping on the Cougars a little bit. They are giving USC a 87.4% chance to win. I believe that is the highest of any of the pick'ems I've done so far in this week, not any week. But my pick is USC in this one. Fight on. I'm going to take the Trojans. We've seen them get into some close games. This could be similar, I think, to maybe their Oregon State game 2 weeks ago where it was close in the fourth quarter, but USC found a way and they triumphed, and I think the same will go here. Washington State is definitely capable of keeping this close, but I think USC will just be too good in the end. Looking now, we have number 16 BYU versus Notre Dame. No number in front of Notre Dame because they're not ranked. They stink. This is a 7:30 p.m. game, and this one can be seen on NBC. This is a neutral site game to be played in Las Vegas. Let's take a look at BYU. They are currently 4-1 on the season, and they have played well their last 2 weeks after dropping a game to, who did they lose to? Oregon. They dropped to Oregon, but they've bounced back well. Quarterback Jaron Hall, he has played well as well. How many times can I say well in the next 5 seconds? The passing game is averaging 293.2 yards per game, and their offense is also putting up an average of 34.4 points per game. However, the defense for the Cougs, they have been holding opponents to 26.4 points per game and 335 yards per game, which is probably a little higher than you'd like, but they've been finding ways to win, and that's what is important. Taking a look at Notre Dame now, they are coming off a bye week after winning 2 straight after their shaky 0-2 start with losses to Ohio State and Marshall at home. The offense for the Fighting Irish has been nothing to write home about. They have not been putting up great numbers. They rank 97th in passing yards per game, and I know what you might say. Oh, well, quarterback got hurt, and they have a backup in there now. Regardless, they have not been special. Even in the running game, they've been better, but nothing great. They're only averaging 25 points per game. Like I mentioned, the run game has been somewhat effective, and they are averaging 160 rushing yards per game. The defense for Notre Dame, they are allowing an average of 24 points per game. So they're scoring on average 25 points per game, but they're allowing an average of 24. So you see how, just the averages, how close things are. They are giving up over 200 passing yards per game, which I think that's a weak spot for Notre Dame and something that BYU will definitely look to exploit, as Jaron Hall has shown an ability to throw the ball deep. ESPN's Football Power Index actually loves Notre Dame in this one. I was kind of surprised to see this. They give Notre Dame a 69.9% chance to win this one. But to hell with the FPI. I'm taking BYU. Anybody who thinks Notre Dame can go and travel all this way. I mean, the travel. BYU's coming from Provo, Utah. Utah to Nevada, it's not as far as a trip from South Bend to Las Vegas. But Notre Dame is coming off a bye week, so they should be ready and well prepared. But I'm still taking the Cougs to get the win in this neutral site action. And the last game of the pick'em this week, it's Florida State, who I'm very excited about and very hopeful that they will keep having success, versus number 14 North Carolina State. This one is an 8 p.m. game Eastern time and can be seen on the ACC network. And before I get into it, I just want to say I like this format of slide. I want to try to use this as much as I can. Let's get into the first, talking about the Seminoles. They have played very well to start their 2022 season. This offense is averaging 34.2 points per game and over 200 yards rushing per game. So the running game has been key for Florida State. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day. I said, of all the kind of elite blue blood programs who are kind of down right now, think Nebraska, or I've been down in recent memory, Nebraska, Miami, Florida State, Texas, USC, which of those would you want to be back the most? He said Texas. My answer is Florida State. I don't know what it is about their brand. Maybe it's their culture, their history. I just want them to be back. Honestly, it might be the war chant that really steers me towards them. Let's talk about the Seminoles defense, not to get too distracted here. They have been allowing an average of 21.2 points per game, and they are top 5 in the ACC in sacks on the season. Getting pressure on veteran quarterback Devin Leary for NC State will be key. I think Florida State will have a tough battle in this one. Their schedule's getting tougher. We saw them lose one last week to Wake Forest. They got another ranked team in NC State this week, and next week they got the granddaddy of them all in the ACC, Clemson. I don't know if that one's home or away, but Florida State's got a real ringer of their schedule here. I'd say if they can get through these 3 games with at least 1 win, you got to look at that as a success if you're a Seminoles fan. But let's look at the other side of the field. Number 14, North Carolina State. They are coming off a loss of, speak of the devil, Clemson. But Florida State, they still will provide a challenge for this Wolfpack team, as we just laid out. North Carolina State cannot go into this thinking, oh, it's just an easy cakewalk. No, this is a much improved team, and they will give you a fight. North Carolina State, though, they are veteran-led. They've played a lot of games. They have a lot of experience. It starts with their quarterback, Devin Leary. He is in his 4th year here with North Carolina State. However, Leary, he only has a QBR of 52.5. That's a little better than you'd expect. It only ranks 77th in the country for someone with that much experience. But there's still time to improve and still improvement to be had for this team. The defense for this team has been playing at a very high level. That is what has brought this team a lot of success so far. Currently, they are allowing opponents to score only 15.4 points per game. The Wolfpack are also holding opponents to under 100 rushing yards per game. So this kind of reminds me of Iowa State, Kansas State, where one team can run the ball well and one team has a very stout rushing defense. I think that's the matchup. If Florida State can get a ground game going, if they can keep the ball out of Devin Leary's hands and keep the ball out, North Carolina State's offense off the field and just run the ball effectively, run that clock, Florida State's going to win it. But I don't know if they will be capable of doing that. For North Carolina State, like I've said, they got a lot of experience. They have a very experienced coach too. According to the Football Power Index from ESPN, they like North Carolina State, giving them a 60.5% chance to win this one. And I'm going to have to go with them. I like North Carolina State to win this game. This is definitely one I'll be looking forward to tuning into if I can. But I like Florida State. I like what they're doing, but I think North Carolina State is just further along in that process. I want to thank everybody for watching. Special thanks to ESPN for providing stats and info for this, letting me do all of this, giving me the numbers, analytics, and all that stuff they publish. It's really a big help for me in making educated selections. Everybody be sure to tune in next week and be sure to enjoy this college football weekend. We've got a lot of good games. Notice, I think this was the first time all year not a single Big Ten game was featured in this list. So, you know, the Premier Conference not being featured. I'm trying to think. No, we had some SEC games. We did have some SEC games. So this will be a good week. I'm looking forward to it. I hope your favorite team wins, unless, of course, they're playing my favorite team. Then I hope they go to hell. But everybody have a great weekend. Enjoy the college football Saturday, and we'll see you here next week.